Two Hoosiers were taken in Thursday's NBA draft. It was a night of high highs when it came to Jalen Hood-Schifino, but a night of frustrating, mind-boggling, incomprehensible lows when it came to Trayce Jackson Davis.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. You are Locked On Hoosiers, the one and only daily IU podcast. We're part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Free and available anywhere you guys get podcasts, including over on YouTube. Thank you, as always, for making us your first listen. I'm your host, Jacob Rude. NBA draft was on Thursday. As we predicted, two Hoosiers were drafted, but certainly not in the way we thought it would play out. Jalen Hood-Schifino was a first-round pick, as we imagined he would be. We're going to talk about him in a bit because the big story of the night for the Hoosiers was just the NBA doing insane, dumb things, and Trayce Jackson Davis plummeting almost entirely out of the draft altogether. For those that listened or watched Wednesday's episode, the everydayers will know there were a number of mock drafts that had Trayce as a first-round prospect, and the floor for him was around 40. There's 58 picks in this year's draft. So where did things go wrong? Not really sure, but Trayce didn't get picked in the 40s and then didn't get picked in the 50s, and then it got to a point where it was kind of depressing. I'm sure a lot of people went to sleep, but Trayce had his draft party in Indianapolis. A lot of people there. I wanted him to have his moment, as I'm sure many IU fans did, of being drafted, but it looked like that moment wasn't going to come, and there were arguments to be made about it being better for him to go undrafted so that he can pick his destination. But with the penultimate pick of the draft, the Golden State Warriors take Trayce Jackson Davis with the 57th pick. The players that were taken over him were absolutely wild. Trayce had a very noteworthy tweet. I'll pull it up as I'm discussing, but incomprehensible what the NBA GMs were doing and why they were passing on Trayce. It's a very, I think, kind of new modern mindset that Trayce isn't a three-point shooter, so he's not worth the pick. I think IU fans can attest to that not being a good description of Trayce Jackson Davis. He tweeted sometime in the middle of the second round, "Y'all will regret it, I promise you." And it wasn't until about the last second that he was taken. I mean, I know I'm speaking to the choir. Trayce is an athletic big man that can dunk and block. Like, even if you break it down to just that, he also has incredible passing game, and we'll talk about that and how that fits with the Warriors in a second, but it really isn't this difficult. I don't know what NBA GMs are doing sometimes. They overthink things drastically. They would rather swing for the fences with this prospect that is 6'9", that can shoot threes and has this long wingspan and looks like he might be a 3-and-D guy, versus taking someone like Trayce, who is going to come in and contribute from day one with the Warriors. This is why so many people lose jobs when it comes to front offices in the NBA, and why the lifespan of those jobs are short, and why teams like the Warriors stay at the top, because they make moves like this. Here's Mike Woodson's quote on the night about Trayce before we dive into his fit with the Warriors. Quote, "It's scary how far Trayce Jackson Davis has come. The things I've shown him, he's done. He rebounded the ball. He had high assists. He had blocks. He had big nights scoring the ball, rebounding the ball. There is nothing he cannot do. He's been questioned about his jump shot, but I think this summer he's proving people wrong there in the camps that he's attended, where he had to work and show those general managers and presidents of those teams, those scouts, that he can shoot the basketball. So again, the sky is the limit for him. He's ready for the NBA because he's so athletic and can do a lot of things. He can get up and down the floor and finish around the rim. Golden State got a hell of a player. They did. And realistically, and I'm not saying this as some type of like coping, if there was one team I thought Trayce fit best in, and I have receipts talking with other people about the draft, it was Golden State. I earnestly think this is almost as good of a fit as you could get for him. For those that have watched Golden State, you know their offense is built around cutting, passing, having a post player at the top of the key, finding cutters, finding open three-point shooters, dribble handoffs with screens and rolls. Tell me that doesn't sound exactly like it fits into the strengths of Trayce Jackson-Davis. I think this is going to be a terrific fit for him. GM Mike Dunleavy said that Trayce Jackson-Davis will be on the Warriors 15-man roster. At times, sometimes when a player is taken this late in the draft, they might sign a two-way deal and not even be guaranteed to be on the roster. That's not the case. He said they're not overly loaded in the front court, that they had Trayce Jackson-Davis higher on their big board. This was the Warriors picked like in 19, somewhere around there, where realistically that was too high for Trayce Jackson-Davis, and didn't pick again until this pick. So they did all they could to select him. The Pacers have some egg on their face, and it's going to be really rough if Trayce turns into a solid player, because they had like 4 chances at drafting Trayce and passed time and time and time again. There's a number of teams that are going to look pretty silly on this one. Trayce is going to get minutes in Golden State. Last year in the playoffs, Golden State did not have front court depth. They played against the Lakers and were throwing 4 guards out there and 1 big man, and it wasn't working. Their backup big man was JaMychal Green, which a lot of you probably don't know, and that's kind of proving the point. They did not have front court depth. Even if they sign a couple guys, they're not going to have a lot of it. They're a team that is operating well above the cap. They don't have the ability to sign many big men, and even if they do, they're going to be ones that are going to have big flaws in their game. So they drafted Trayce with the idea of him getting minutes. And everybody makes the comparisons all the time. Oh, he's the next Draymond Green. I don't think Trayce is the next Draymond Green. He can be kind of a Draymond Green light. He doesn't have the kind of body that Draymond has, that he can go up against big post players and ward them off. But he does have the reach, the wingspan, the shot blocking ability. We saw his ability to pass the ball and things like that. So he's going to fit in there. I don't want to dive too deep into the analysis of his fit, because we're going to do that on Monday's episode with a guest. But he'll get minutes. It'll work out for him there. I know it says the number 57, number 58. I think he went 57th, whatever. I know it says that. Ignore that. He's going to get minutes. There are a number of guys who year over year are second round picks, late second round picks, undrafted, that end up in rotations. And Trayce is going to do that in Golden State. I am certain of it. Kevin O'Connor, who we mentioned a lot, and we're going to get some more draft reactions later on in the episode. But I wanted to share this one about Trayce, quite possibly the steal of the draft. I know the NBA hates old prospects, but myself and many others had Trayce Jackson-Davis as a late first rounder. There's just a lot of preconceived notions that lead to NBA teams just marking guys off their board. They're going to look silly on this one, and I can't wait to watch Trayce prove them wrong. Now, having ranted, vented, gotten our frustrations out, it was all good news for Jalen Hood-Schifino. He is a Laker. We're going to talk about his selection, a little bit about his fit, and what's in store for him in LA. Before we do that, let's talk about Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look good because they are a stretch khaki short that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing Lululemon do, but fit way better. They fit better because regular shorts are made of stiff, restricting cotton, but Bird Dog fixed that issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Bird Dog uses anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Say that 5 times fast. The best part about Bird Dogs, as we say time and time again, is that they have the funniest names for products possible. So you can go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, check out the name, find a pair for you. If you order some today, you'll get a free Yeti style tumbler with that order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. Big thanks to you guys for making us your first listen every single day. Every dayers. Tomorrow on the show, or Monday on the show, I should say, we will do some more deep dive analysis. We have Jared Gasul, who he hasn't been on in a while, but fellow NBA diehard. And we're going to talk about Trayce's fit in Golden State, get his thoughts on that, Jalen. And then we'll get you some updates on if anybody signed summer league deals. Notably, Miller Kopp, I know, was attempting to get one. So if we see any of that, we'll look into it as well. Let's talk Jalen Hood-Schifino, though, because he ends up going number 17 to the Lakers. Slipped maybe a little bit, though largely speaking, this was kind of the range I think most expected him to go. There was some buzz about him moving up in the draft a little bit as a lottery pick. He slipped just outside the lottery. Mike Woodson, part of his quote on Jalen Hood-Schifino, quote, "I think the sky is the limit for him. Los Angeles Lakers got a solid player on and off the floor that's going to work his tail off. That's all you can ask from a rookie coming in. He'll learn the NBA, and we'll be talking about him probably 10 years down the road because he'll have a solid career in the NBA." I think it's noteworthy, these quotes. I mean, a coach is always going to talk up his players, but Mike Woodson's different. He had a long career in the NBA that very recently ended. So he's very familiar with the NBA game. So hearing him speak so decisively about these two is very noteworthy. Now, Jalen to the Lakers. That wasn't one we talked about a lot when we were discussing mock drafts. It wasn't a place he was often mocked to in these drafts. It's an interesting fit. He's not going to have the expectations of carrying an offense or a franchise, being the guy or anything like that. And when you're in this kind of range, you typically aren't. The flip side, he's going to have some pressure of competing at a high level. The Lakers were in the Western Conference Finals last year, likely going to bring back most of that roster, and they're going to be looking to compete deep into the playoffs again. So while he doesn't have any expectations of kind of being the guy or anything close to that, he's going to have to make winning plays. And so there is a different kind of pressure on him. The good news for Jalen is the Lakers have a great track record of developing talent. Anybody who has followed the NBA knows, whether it's Austin Reeves most recently, Alex Caruso, Talen Horton-Tucker, Thomas Bryant started there. Then you have kind of Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart. There's a lot of guys that the Lakers have developed into very quality players. Right now, on top of the developmental staff they have, Phil Handy is someone that is considered one of the best player development coaches out there. He's the Lakers' lead assistant coach. So he's going to, I would imagine, have a pretty big role in helping Jalen Hood-Schifino develop as well. And I mean, LeBron's a great mentor to have. He has this, and I know Indiana fans probably don't want to hear this. He has this reputation as kind of this guy that will bury teammates. I think that was overblown even back in the day, and it is certainly not the case anymore. He's a great mentor. While he is older, this is a Lakers core that was younger, much younger last season. They were a lot of fun to play with. I think Jalen will fit into that nicely. There's going to be a path to playing time. The Lakers could lose a number of guards in free agency. They probably will lose at least one of them. And Jalen's right there to pick up those minutes. Dennis Schroeder might be gone. He was the backup kind of sixth man for the Lakers, especially in the playoffs. D'Angelo Russell was a starter. He could be gone as well. The end result is there's going to be minutes to be had for Jalen in the rotation. It's going to be a matter of if he can make good on them. There is still a possibility of him being dealt. Those rumors aren't going to go away. There was a lot of talk about the Lakers trading this pick beforehand. When you're on a LeBron team, that's kind of the other pressure, is that they're always looking for upgrades. And Jalen's going to represent one of their better trade assets even heading into the season. So the rumors are probably going to persist regardless. We'll see if he's playing poorly, if he's not contributing. We'll see how much patience they have. Again, the Lakers have a lot of benefit of the doubt when it comes to developing guys. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he played a handful of games in the G League if things are struggling, because the Lakers G League is in-house. It is in their practice facility. It allows that player to just get some reps, get some confidence back. And again, their developmental staff is good from the G League through the NBA. So there's a lot of reasons to really like this fit for Jalen. He's in he's with a franchise that can develop him, and there are ways he can contribute to winning right away defensively, the mid-range scoring, the playmaking. He has some room to grow with the 3-point shooting, taking care of the ball a little bit. So he's in a good space to do that. I'm excited. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys, or some of you guys maybe that follow me, know that I cover the Lakers as my other job. So I'm very familiar with the situation. I'm excited I get to watch Jalen play every game next season. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's a good situation for him. And it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to playing alongside LeBron James. That shot's really going to have to come along, that 3-point shot. But again, we'll dive a little bit deeper into that and how he'll play, things of that nature in Monday's episode. Let's look at some reactions, some grades to this NBA draft, both for Jalen and for Trayce, where they're available. Interesting grades, interesting reactions to this one. We'll do all that here in a moment. So there were a number of places that immediately released draft grades. Not a lot of them had second-round draft grades, which, I mean, fair. That is quite the ask when it comes to an NBA draft. The draft lasted until about 1 a.m. Let's start with SB Nation. They only had first-round draft grades. And look, Jalen Hood-Schifino is a divisive prospect. You're going to find that out. They gave the Lakers a C+ on this. Schifino is a huge 6'6" guard who makes plays out of the pick and roll while offering pull-up and shooting potential. We know all that. I had Hood-Schifino ranked outside my top 30, but NBA teams are reportedly always higher on him. His upside rests on him turning into a knockdown pull-up shooter off the dribble. I'm not super encouraged by his college tape or percentages. The Lakers did need a guard, and if this saves them from giving D'Angelo Russell a big contract, it could be worth it. I don't know why you wouldn't be super encouraged by his college tape and percentages. Good free throw shooter, good mid-range shooter. I don't know why you wouldn't think that would translate to the 3-point line. It'd be really odd if you are just this superb mid-range scorer that just doesn't have a shot if you move 5 feet backwards. It's rare. It's happened, but it's rare. And the examples of it happening are more in kind of the previous generation. Sean Livingston is a name some of you might remember. It's not often that a guy can be a great mid-range scorer and just hopeless at the 3-point line in the modern NBA. So there's reason for optimism there, but that's as low as the grades are going to get. Yahoo had just the first round as well. This one's a little bit better. Gives the Lakers a B- on selecting Jalen Hood-Schifino. First one was SB Nation and Ricky O'Donnell. This one is Kristen Peak at Yahoo. Gave the Lakers that B- grade. Hood-Schifino participated in Chris Paul's camp prior to his freshman year at Indiana. Paul praised Hood-Schifino's defense on the perimeter. Defense is what's going to get him on the floor. It's going to be good enough to keep getting him minutes. Lakers were a really good defensive team last year, and I think he'll fit well into that defending point guards, because that was an issue for the Lakers last season. So it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts defensively to the NBA. He's going to be kind of thrown in the fire a little bit. CBS Sports had grades for the first and second round. This was Adam Finkelstein, who gave the Lakers a B. We're progressively going up. I didn't plan this, but we're progressively going up with the grades for the Lakers in this one. His B talked about Hood-Schifino showing potential that he could be a role player in both high school and college. The long-term play here is a nice player. He is a nice player, but is he ready to contribute to a team that expects to be good now? I think that's a fair question, but I think his defense, his ability to make plays out of the pick and roll, the Lakers were looking for guys that could help take the pressure off LeBron as a playmaker, and that's a good way to do it. So he gets a B there. I think that is as valid of a criticism as there has been. The Warriors, with the number 57 pick, get an A grade for Trayce Jackson-Davis. A lot of people really like this pick. I don't give out A's very often in the second round, but I'll slap my stamp of approval happily here on this one. Jackson-Davis was a first-round prospect for me, so this pick for the Warriors at number 57 feels like robbery. He was a productive 4-year college player at Indiana whose shooting touch could allow him in time to develop a perimeter shot and be a floor spacing threat. I think there's a lot of talk about him being a shooter. Look, we watched him be incredible without needing to be a shooter. I know the NBA game's a lot different than college, but if you're able to surround him with shooting and he can play as a kind of a backup big man that can still protect the rim, you don't need him to be the shooter. You can have him be the guy in the post that can make plays to cutters and have the floor spaced around him, be a screen setter, a roll man. I think there's too much focus on whether he can be a shooter and not enough on what his strengths are. Bleacher Report, I believe this is Zach Buckley over at Bleacher Report. Again, these grades are going up for the Lakers. Gave Jalen Hood-Schifino that selection a B grade. This is a more extensive kind of recap, but the end of it, if his shooting perks up, he's a good fit and a good find in this spot. If it doesn't, it could be hard for him to find minutes with both LeBron and AD on the floor, Anthony Davis on the floor. Those two guys struggled to shoot the three last season. So, yeah, he's going to have to be able to knock down shots somehow. Teams are going to leave him open from three. So we're going to find out quickly if he can be a scorer from the three-point line. But even if he can make plays in the pick and roll with Anthony Davis, that'll be good. I'm trying not to dive too deep into analysis because I want to leave some meat on the bone for Monday's episode to talk about these two and how they will fit in with their respective teams. He did not give an explanation for his second round games, or picks, but his second round grades. I'm sorry, it's late, but he did give Trayce Jackson-Davis selection an A+, and that is the only A+ he gave in the second round. So those were the only two guys I could find that graded out second round picks, but they both love the selection. So yippee, that again, it's a great pick for the Warriors, and he's going to play. Wrap up with sporting news, who was as high as anybody. Kyle Irving gave the Lakers an A grade. The Lakers are getting great value with this pick. Hood-Schifino is a fantastic pick and roll playmaker. Take the ball handling pressure off LeBron. LA gains a high upside point guard with a confident mid-range jumper and the length to bother opposing guards on the defensive end. He did not grade any of the second round picks. So you can see we started on one end and ended on the other when it comes to Jalen Hood-Schifino. He's a divisive prospect. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that he's not your regular kind of guard prospect in 2023. He's not a guy shooting a high volume of three-pointers and that being where he finds his value as a scorer. But again, don't think of it that way. There are a lot of things that he does well other than scoring. That's why he was as good as he was last season with the Hoosiers. So we'll see. There's a lot of people who had a lot of strong opinions about this one. John Hollinger at The Athletic had the wildest opinion I saw, called Jalen Hood-Schifino the most overrated player in the draft. I mean, if you're going to have a hot take, I guess, go for it, full send it, but that's obscene. The most overrated player in the draft. John Hollinger used to be in the Memphis Grizzlies front office, and you can understand why it's used to be. he has had some insane takes like that. And again, you can see why he's no longer employed. But that'll do it for today's episode. Let me know what you guys think of where Trayce and Jalen landed in the draft. Are you excited? I know a lot of people probably aren't Lakers fans, so you guys actually going to tune into the games to watch them. Those are going to be some late games, so I don't blame you if you're not. Let us know in the comments below on Twitter, in the iTunes reviews, wherever it may be. Thank you for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every single day. Every dayers. Again, Monday on the show, we're going to have Jared Gasul on. We're going to talk more in depth about kind of the fits, do some analysis once we have time to sit back and think about how Jalen and Trayce are going to fit on their respective teams. So be sure to tune in to that. Follow us on Twitter if you have not already. Subscribe to the podcast. Can't thank you guys enough. I know June's been a bit of a slower month, but you guys are still being incredibly supportive. So leave a rating and review. All of that great stuff. Appreciate all the support as always. I hope you guys get through your Friday just fine. And as always, Elio.